What's happening, folks? If you're sick of waiting for the ice to form, ready to get off the couch, ready to double up on a walleye, maybe even find a bite that's worth diving headfirst for, like this, this video is for you. Literally ended up diving headfirst. Might not recommend going that far, but I was having a good time. Anyways, I was out with Jesse the other day, having a blast. Tried to film some tips and just show you how I was catching some walleye. Unfortunately, I didn't get my mic cord plugged all the way in, so I have no sound for any of the video footage that I took. So I'm gonna try to talk to you here, tell you a little bit about what was going on, overlay some of that footage. So here we go. I'm gonna talk to you about a few things. Number one, kind of location and structure that you're looking for. Number two, some of the tackle and tactics that I'm using. Number three, just a little bit more on the rod, reel, line setup. Showing you the exact recipe that I'm using to have a bunch of fun on the ice right now. So, if you're looking to get out on Sakakawea, the extreme west end of Sakakawea throughout much of the winter is probably the most consistent, best ice fishing. Part of that reason is because it just simply has the best ice conditions. The east end right now is probably wide open. The far west end has up to 12 inches or more of ice right now, depending on the situation. Don't just go driving your truck out there. Make sure you're checking as you go, etc. There's a ton of variability to a lot of things going on in Sakakawea. And when I talk about the extreme west end, I'm predominantly going to be talking about everything from Newtown all the way up through into the river into Williston. Whatever, what is that, 40 some miles? 50, 60 miles almost of water. There is a lot going on. There's very specific areas where ice could be safe. A lot of areas right now where you do not want to tread. Be careful. But that being said, I've been out for over a couple of weeks and the bite can be great. If you're looking to, I'm just going to kind of work east to west in that area that I described. When you're way out by Newtown, way is relative, but anyways, when you're out by Newtown and anywhere down the lake from there, generally speaking, there's a lot of exceptions to these rules, but generally speaking, I'm looking for fish related to deep smelt. I'm usually fishing on structure, on a ledge, adjacent to deep water, adjacent to big pods of smelt. That usually gets going, especially at about Newtown and down the lake. Fishing the end of a point, along a ledge that drops off in really deep water. Structural elements on top, looking for fish, ambushing smelt. There's lots of exceptions to that rules. To those rules, they eat a lot of things besides smelt, but that's what I'm looking for. A lot of those depths could range from 20 to 30 feet, maybe deeper. Deep structure, adjacent to really deep water, adjacent to deep schools of smelt. As you move west towards Williston, the walleye are still eating some smelt that are migrating up the reservoir, in this cold water, but a lot of it's kind of a hodgepodge of fish eating young of the year white bass, shiners, some smelt, lots of things. The closer you get to Williston, a lot of what I'm looking for is really just fishing the base of a break line. So rather than looking so much for points, there might be a break where it's going to break down hard and then starts to taper off. Right about where it starts to taper off is about exactly where I want to fish. Really fishing kind of that soft bottom near the base of the break is a lot of times what I'm looking for. A lot of times at 25 to 30 foot of water, depending on the area you're in. You might be in areas of the lake where there isn't even 25 to 30 foot of water, depending on how far up the reservoir you're going. But like I said, the further west you go towards Williston, the more I'm just fishing the base of break lines. Okay, so I was talking about fishing the base of a break line. That being said, there's a break line on like the whole length of the lake. So I'm gonna specify a little bit more. So depending on what area you're in, the river channel itself that's running through the lake, it could be, way down the lake, it could be over 100 foot deep. Much closer to Newtown or Williston, it could be 60 foot deep, whereas you go towards Williston, it could be 20 foot deep, depending on the area you're in. So when you're fishing the base of a break line, in some instances, you're literally fishing the river channel. Other areas, you're just fishing the base of a break or the base of a point. Like I said, upriver from Newtown, a lot of times I like to fish not really on structure, but just off of it. Fish that are roaming that, the base of, the basin, but coming in contact with little bumps of that point. Fish that are loosely related to structure, but I'm not really fishing on the structure as much as I'm fishing the base of the break and catching fish that are just like kind of roaming around and coming in contact, tending to mingle around that as a high percentage spot in that region. So whether you're fishing on like a little bit of a bump in the break line, maybe there's a cover type change where, like, even if you look at the bank, maybe it's rock, and it transitions to sand or clay, something like that. Maybe there's a coulee nearby you see, maybe there's bluffs all over and all of a sudden it flattens out. Maybe that transition zone out there at the base of a break might be really good. You'd be surprised sometimes. Anyway, just want to specify a little bit more what I meant in terms of fishing the base of a break and how to increase your odds. That being said, there is, I think, a lot of overlooked bites that are very shallow. We had a lot of rising water this past year. There's a lot of flooded brush and grass. I think there's probably some killer, very shallow bites going on with fish related to little emerald shiners and white bass up in shallow water that probably aren't getting tapped into very well. That being said, the deep bite is good, easy, thing to find. Additionally, so while you're out catching walleye, a lot of times you're catching Cisco, big Cisco. Cisco, a lot of times people get them confused. They got an upturned mouth. A lot of people confuse them with a goldeye. Further you go upriver, like past Lewis and Clark State Park, up the river, the more goldeye you're probably going to run into. Goldeye, not a Cisco, but up that direction, the further you go up, run into a lot of goldeye. That will, kind of Lund's Landing all the way down through White Earth, way down, you're going to be running into a lot of Cisco. Cisco are personally something that I really enjoy catching. A lot of fun. Some people might get annoyed, but the good thing is, usually if you're around a bunch of Cisco, if you're catching large Cisco, a lot of times they're actually feeding on things that the walleye might be feeding on. So a lot of times you're in a good spot. And if you give it enough time, you might have some Cisco move out, the walleye move right in. So just because you're on Cisco, big Cisco, doesn't mean you're not going to be on the walleye. In fact, it's usually a good sign. If you are further upriver, like Lewis and Clark State Park and upriver from there, I was referencing goldeye. If you're catching a bunch of goldeye, once again, those things are a lot of times eating the same thing the walleyes are eating. As you move upriver, it gets real heavy on them feeding on emerald shiners. And yeah, so anyways, once again, goldeye, not a bad sign. Cisco, not a bad sign. Yeah, so anyways, a little bit on the location, a little bit on what they're eating. Now we're gonna go on to some ways that I target them. I'm gonna show you just the ways that I was targeting them the other day. This is in kind of that mid-lake region, not way upriver, not down by Newtown, further south from there, that in-between zone. That in-between zone, I'm gonna show you my go-to presentations. There's a lot of other things that I use. I'm just gonna show you specifically what I had on the other day. So, for jigging, this is what I was using. This is a 36-inch Thorne Brothers Perch Sweetheart rod with, this is a Daiwa, I forget what it's called, the QZ750 reel. Right here. It's again 36-inch Thorne Brothers Perch Sweetheart rod. And spooled up on this, I happen to have 6-pound Seaguar Invisex. Been experimenting with this. I've had good success so far. So, the business end of things, right here, I have the specific snap that I'm using. Nashini Lure Works size 0 snap to an old school bait, the Swedish Pimple. This specific bait, the model is like the 3AN. It's a 1/5 ounce. It's the hammered silver color. And I happen to have a size 10 Owner ST36 treble hook on there instead of the stock hook that came on there. I pinch off a minnow head, place it on here. I also use a bait button. Look them up, Google it, bait buttons, to help pin that minnow head on. It makes a big difference to me in terms of not losing the minnow when you're shaking it. Makes you more effective and efficient down there. So yeah, this is my go-to jigging setup. This is about as old school as you get, and sometimes that's how I like it. So really basic. What I really like about small spoons, this represents, I mean, it's vertical, not horizontal, but the size and profile very much like a little emerald shiner. It works, everything bites it. Very finessey, little minnow head. What I really enjoy about it, catch walleye, catch cisco, catch whitefish, goldeye, pike, white bass. There's a few eel pout running around out there, etc. Great way to have a great time out on the water. This 36-inch Perch Sweetheart with by Thorne Brothers. Super fun little setup to use. Loads up really well, but you can jack big old walleye with this also. Along with that, as far as dead sticks, you could use tip-ups. You know, I kind of feel like if you're going to use tip-ups, you can set one out to kind of try a different area than what you're in, just to kind of like have a little gauge of like, hey, are they super shallow or are they in a different area that I'm not using? That being said, to me, tip-ups, you got to like kind of like man them quite a bit. So to me, it's either like you got to jig or run tip-ups. Nothing wrong with running tip-ups. But sometimes they don't even trip the tip up very well. You have to have it on a really light setting. There's a lot of tips and tricks you can do to run tip ups on really light settings, etc. But we're not going to go into that today. All I'm going to say is sometimes I just don't like running tip ups for walleye. It's more fun a little bit to like set the hook and reel them in. Also, like when I'm jigging, I don't necessarily want to be distracted by tip ups everywhere because I enjoy jigging so much. So what I like to do is run a dead stick rod. This happens to be a 28-inch medium power. It's like the Jason Mitchell dead meat rod. An all glass rod. And what I happen to have for line here, I'm actually using the 6-pound variety, but it's the Trilene XT. The 4-pound Trilene XT is actually the same diameter as a 6-pound Seaguar InvizX, but I'd recommend probably about 6-pound Trilene Micro Ice is probably, you know, good inexpensive line you can use. It definitely works. 28-inch Jason Mitchell meat stick. So this rod right here, it's all fiberglass. The tip, very soft. What that allows you to do is run a small jig. My personal favorite, clam drop XXL, little tungsten jig, 1/8 ounce, very small, very dense. It doesn't blow out in the current easily. Everywhere you're fishing on Sakakawea, for the most part, you're gonna have some amount of current. When you go way upriver, it takes a little bit more specialized tactics. That middle range, something like this, my go-to. Small, subtle, nice thicky hook, dense, works super well. All you gotta do, no bobber. Forget the bobber. The bobber is just gonna kind of drift into the edge of the hole, kind of gets annoying. I like this, just that soft. It's all loose now from being indoors, different temperature for the drag. But anyways, it's got that real subtle tip, so you can see that minnow working. When the walleye grabs it, boop, it's gonna start pulling the rod down. You let it hang, start moving off, set the hook, you got them. What I like to run that on, I don't even know what these are called. I call them like rod rockers. I don't even know what they are. There's these little metal stands that you can get for putting your rod on, and I'll put the dead stick on that. Got my rod right here. All I do, as you can see, set it up on the ice, put your line through like that, let it balance just like that. And then what that does, it allows the fish to grab this, slowly pull it down with very little resistance. You can all watch it happen. That way you can run a dead stick near you while you're jigging. Works super good as a good 1-2 punch. So anyways, those are my go-tos. When I'm going further upriver in current or further down the lake, there are some different tactics that I might use, but these two, you know, if you're fishing from Lewis and Clark State Park towards Newtown, will get the job done extremely well. Old school, really basic. Go out there, catch you some walleye. It's great fishing. Have a blast. Also, I should definitely mention,
good job,
there's
bud.
plenty to catch besides walleye. Northern pike are a blast this time of year.
Bud.
There can be
You get
great
it all
time
by
tag,
yourself.
just like my little
Holy
5-year-old had
buckets, bud.
catching this
That's a
nice
pretty
pike by
good
himself
one.
the other day. There's a lot of fish we're screaming for besides walleye. So, also, before I forget, if you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift or just a cool calendar in general, that sweet painting done by my buddy Matt Doyle. See this calendar? I'm ahead of schedule right now. Get my face out of there. January 2024. Get your Matt Doyle fine art calendar. Makes a great gift. I I don't know if there's time to get it in time for Christmas, but I'm sure people would like a nice belated Christmas gift. Here's January. Show you. Here's February, March, April. Anyways, Matt does some sick outdoor paintings. If you're interested in getting a hold of something really cool like this, like that calendar, hit him up, mattdoylefineart.com. Make some great stuff. He also does custom paintings. So yeah, have a great one, guys. Thanks for watching.